More than half of all Americans say they have dealt with burnout since the pandemic started, and that's according to a survey by the insurance company Aflac. So we're getting some help to recognize burnout and get out of the rut with self-described burnout coach Amy Mongeta, who is an author and a coach. Amy, so good to see you. So first, tell us, what is burnout?
Yes, great question. So burnout is really a phenomenon that affects your mental, physical, and emotional well-being. It oftentimes starts in that honeymoon stage when we start our career and we're going full on, wanting to prove our worth. And then we always have that moment where the onset of stress comes into play. We often will say, I feel burnt out when we're in this stage, and that indicates that a change is needed. But oftentimes with the hustle culture that we're sort of in society right now, we move into the chronic stress phase from there, and then we likely will move into burnout syndrome, where we're starting to feel exhaustion, isolation, escape fantasies, where we're often saying like, I feel stuck, or I just want to get out of this, irritability. And this is really where the health issues and frequent illnesses come into play.
So you talked about those different phases of burnout. Are there different ways to get unstuck? What are some strategies?
Yeah, that's a great question. Getting unstuck, the best way is when you start to feel that feeling of, oh my gosh, I really, something's wrong, or I feel stuck. The first thing is to just look at your situation with some self-awareness and say, what are these stress triggers? What is causing me to feel stressed out? And when we can take a week or so and really examine what they are, what's causing that fight or flight response. A really quick key here is if you have a partner and you come home every day and you start complaining, those are usually the stress triggers that are easily identifiable. But once we can put those down on paper, we can start to ask ourselves, what are in my control and what are out of my control? And most of the time, we have a lot more in our control than we think. And so we can start to put boundaries in place. But when we start to have situations that are causing us to compromise our core values and the identity of who we are, that might mean that a bigger change is needed, like leaving a company or changing careers.
Well, what's your personal story, Amy? What made you decide that you wanted to be an expert in this burnout field?
Yeah, I mean, I was part of the hustle culture. I'm the overachiever that was like, I'm going to keep chasing busy and checking stuff off the productivity list. And I spent 4.5 years as an owner of an email marketing agency where I didn't protect my time, my energy, and I certainly didn't put myself first. And over the course of the 4.5 years, I truly believe everybody knows when they're in burnout. It's just, we say if we get to the next milestone, all of these things are going to go away once we get there. But what we soon realize is that when we reach that milestone, there's another milestone and another milestone. And so I got very depressed finally there towards the end, very depressed, very isolated. And then I lost hearing in my left ear. And we found that my inflammation was super high, 4 times the amount of white blood cell counts and things like that. And my doctor was like, Amy, you have to slow down. And so I actually wrote my book and started my coaching program just because I want to help others not reach rock bottom. It doesn't have to be that way. We have so much more control, and we can do it if we just do the work to not let the stress get unmanageable.
Well, there's a look at Amy's book. It's called The Path to Break Free from Burnout, and you can find more of her tips in there. Amy, thanks so much for spending some time with us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me.